What's up, nerds, and welcome to my Madam Web review. I'm going to talk about Madam Web. I'll talk about the directing, the acting, everything. Sorry this is late. I've just, life gets in the way, but I did see this on Valentine's Day, opening day. Took my wife to see it. Now, I want to say real quick, I did not like this movie, and I'll get into why I didn't like it and everything, but I just want to say my wife did enjoy the movie. My wife does not know anything about Madam Web. She doesn't know anything about comic books, and it was quite refreshing to talk to somebody that didn't know anything about this character or comic books, and she was just like, I liked it. I thought it was a nice origin story, and I'm like, you know what? If you like it, you like it, and I can't help that. But she did like it, and you know what? I'm like, God bless for that, because if we're being honest, I liked Morbius, but I knew that movie was just ridiculous, but I think I liked it because it was so ridiculous. All right, so let's get into this review, you guys. Oh, boy. I mean, where do we even start with Madam Web? I mean, Warner Brothers may have shelved Batgirl, but after witnessing this cinematic catastrophe, I can't help but wonder if they made the right call. It's as if the filmmakers set out to make the worst movie imaginable, and oh boy, did they succeed. This film makes you question if there's any hope left for the future of superhero movies. So let's talk about the experience of watching this train wreck. I've endured some truly imbecile films in my time, but Madam Web takes the cake. It's so shockingly bad that even my own body attempted to shut down in self-defense mode. I mean, like, I was ready to take a nap in the movie theater. I found myself struggling to stay awake, fighting against the overwhelmingly urge to succumb to sleep. And let me tell you, that's how mind-numbingly dull this movie is. One of the few things that managed to keep me awake was the laughter emanating from other moviegoers in the theater. Now, while I typically frown upon laughing at movies, I can't blame them in this case. Madam Web is so atrocious that it's almost comical. If it weren't for the fact that it's a stain on the comic book genre and a disservice to women in superhero films. So let's dive into the pre-origin story aspect of the film. Madam Web attempts to explore the origins of Cassandra Web and the Spider-Women, but it does so in the most uninspired and a nonsensical way possible. I mean, these characters are barely recognizable from their comic book counterparts, and the decision to withhold their iconic costumes until the very end is baffling to me. Like, if they would have taken this movie and just had, like, the first act be all this nonsense that happened in this movie, and then by the third act, they all were wearing their comic book costumes and fighting the bad guy, I would have been totally fine with that. I would have been way happy with that compared to what we got here. I mean, speaking of disconnected from the source material, Madam Web takes it to a whole new level. I mean, it's as if the filmmakers never bothered to crack open a comic book, let alone study the characters they were adapting. And in the end result is a haphazard mess that bears little resemblance to the source material. And if you guys, if you were on Twitter or X as it's called now, there was a clip going around last week that had all these Marvel people talking about how they had never read the comic books. And I'll play that clip for you now.
I was not very steeped in the comics.
I didn't read any comics or do any research.
I wasn't familiar with the comics. I wasn't familiar with the movies.
We didn't lean into a whole lot of the history of the comic books.
Yeah, candidly, we were not enormous comic fans.
I wasn't super into superhero comics when I was a kid. I read a lot of like indie press stuff.
First thing I was told is don't read the comics.
Really?
As a creator, they put you in a bubble. They don't let you talk about any of the other projects, right?
You know, they're up for anything.
We ultimately decided to redefine it for the series and thought that it worked better for the story that we're trying to tell.
Did you ever read you've never read the comic?
When the DVD comes out, I'm going to read a Thor comic book and just see where we went wrong.
And so you seen that and you heard that. So it's apparent that these people writing these movies don't know anything about the characters of the source material. And I think that that's a problem, a huge problem. But perhaps the most egregious offense of Madam Web's is its treatment of the beloved characters like Spider-Woman and Ezekiel Sims. These iconic figures are reduced to mere caricatures of their comic book counterparts with performances that range from wooden to downright cringeworthy, which I will talk about the acting in just a second. But first I want to talk about the plot. In contrast to the lackluster plot of Madam Web, the rumored story revolving around Madam Web sending Spider-Women Jessica Drew, Julia Carpenter, and Mattie Franklin to protect an unborn Peter Parker from a mysterious threat represents a far more compelling narrative. This alternate plot holds the potential for a thrilling adventure that taps into a rich mythology of Spider-Verse, drawing inspiration from classic sci-fi tropes like Terminator 2. The concept of a team of powerful heroines protecting a vulnerable protagonist adds layers of tension and excitement to the story. And an inclusion of Charlotte Witter as an antagonist further enriches the plot, offering a personal connection to Madam Web and raising the stakes for our heroes in the comics. Now, Charlotte Witter's complex relationship with Madam Web adds depth to her character and her role as a formidable villain, and presents a formidable challenge for the Spider-Woman to overcome. By exploring the dynamics between Madam Web, Charlotte, and the three Spider-Women, the rumored plot promised to dive into themes of family, sacrifice, redemption, and providing a more emotional, resonant, and satisfying narrative arc. And I know you're asking yourself, Matt Cat, what are you talking about? So, the rumored plot that leaked online was that Madam Web, it was a prequel, but it was about Madam Web and the Spider-Women, Jessica Drew, Julia Carpenter, and Mattie Franklin. They all travel back in time. Like, Madam Web sends them back in time to protect an unborn Peter Parker, aka Mary Parker, from a mysterious threat. And the threat was rumored, and it's Ezekiel Sims, but the rumor was that it was going to be Charlotte Witter, who is the fourth Spider-Woman in the comic books. And Charlotte Witter is Madam Web's granddaughter, and she was captured by Doc Ock and made into a villain. And, obviously her backstory could have changed, but we never know or whatnot. And she actually ends up stealing the Spider-Woman's powers, though Mattie gets her powers back and defeats her. So I think that the plot of the team protecting Peter from Charlotte, I think that and possibly stealing the other girl's powers, I thought would have been much more powerful. And like I said before, it's a la those classic movies like Terminator 2. Now, moreover, the potential for high-stakes action sequences and intense confrontations between the heroes and the villain adds excitement and spectacle to the story, with the Spider-Women forced to confront their own vulnerabilities and limitations as they battle against overwhelming odds, and the rumored plot offers ample opportunities for character development and growth. By centering the narrative on the bond between Madam Web and her proteges, the film could have explored themes of mentorship, legacy, and enduring power of hope in the face of adversity. Overall, the rumored plot for Sony's Madam Web movie presents a missed opportunity to deliver a compelling and memorable addition to the Spider-Man cinematic universe. With its intriguing premise, complex characters, and potential for thrilling action, this alternative storyline holds the promise of a more engaging and satisfying film experience than the disappointing plot of Madam Web. Now, why did I bring this up? Because, like I said before, this movie went through so many reshoots that we got so many, this movie was just downright crazy. Because in this movie, what we got was Cassandra's mom. She goes to Peru and finds the indigenous tribe of spider people and gets this spider. Then she gets shot by Ezekiel. Then she gets bit by the spider, and she goes to Peru to help her daughter, who would have been a cripple if she hadn't. And the spider's powers has healing abilities and everything. So she could have become one of these spider people, but instead she gets these spidey sense, but she gets precognition. Then the rest of the movie is just her trying to discover her powers. And then so she finds these three girls who Ezekiel Sims is obsessed with because they're going to murder him in the future. So he goes and he hires Sosha from the girls to computer hack and and find them through these cameras. Then they leave state. There's like a diner scene. He's walking around in an anti-Spider-Man outfit. It all culminates to this big fight sequence at this factory from before where a Pepsi sign takes out the bad guy and Madam Web gets blinded and crippled. And then they all end up at the end in this Birds of Prey CW headquarters where they fight crime because they're girl power. That's it in a nutshell. It was freaking crazy. So as far as directing goes, don't even get me started on the directorial choices from S.J. Clarkson, whose background lies primarily in television, and it proves to be completely out of her depth in the world of feature films. The entire movie feels like a bad CW show with uninspired visuals and lackluster storytelling. Now let me get into the acting. Now the acting performances of each character leave much to be desired, failing to captivate and immerse audiences into the world of the film. Dakota Johnson's portrayal of Cassandra Web lacks depth and conviction, feeling more like a caricature than a fully realized character. Johnson struggles to convey Cassie's supposed wit and abrasiveness, resulting in a performance that falls flat. Now Sydney Sweeney's portrayal of Julia Cornwell comes across as awkward and unconvincing, failing to invoke any real sympathy or interest from viewers, unless you're some rando prevert jerking off to her scenes in the movie theater, which who can blame him? Am I right, guys? Am I right?
We salute you. Show
Isabel Marcet's portrayal of Anna Corazon, or as I like to call her, Dora the Ex-Spider-Woman, feels forced and lacks authenticity, with Marcet failing to fully embody the struggles and complexities of her character. Celeste O'Connor's portrayal of Mattie Franklin, a race-swapped Spider-Woman / character, who I like to refer to as Afro Spider, also falls short, feeling one-dimensional and forgettable. Oh, those rich kids, am I right? Tahar Rahim's performance as Ezekiel Sims lacks the intensity and depth needed to make the character truly compelling, and Rahim failing to convey the character's obsessive nature and inner turmoil effectively. I mean, yeah, he was obsessed with finding these underage girls, but the whole time I was just like, why? I mean, you know they're gonna kill you. Why don't you just prepare for it? It's just weird. Even the supporting performances from Emma Roberts as Mary Parker and Adam Scott as Ben Parker feel uninspired and lackluster, failing to leave any lasting impression on audiences. Overall, the acting in Madam Web leaves much to be desired, with performances that fail to elevate the film beyond its lackluster script and uninspired direction. Now, in conclusion, Madam Web is a colossal failure in every level. It's a disgrace to the superhero genre and a stain on the legacy of the characters it attempts to portray. Save yourself the agony and avoid this cinematic disaster at all costs. But tell me mostly, what did you guys think about Madam Web? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What was your favorite part? Who was your favorite character? Are you like me and you wish they would have had those ladies dress up in their costumes and the whole third act be, in the future, not in 2003? Would you have liked to see that movie? And would you also like to have seen Plot League storyline instead of this one? But tell me what you guys thought. Go ahead and leave all your comments in that section down below. If you like this video, go and hit that like button. I won't mind. If you're new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate it. And I will see you guys on my next movie review. You guys have a good day. Bye.